Hello and welcome back. As you can see, I'm here once again in the grow room. This video is going to be related to a post that I just posted on Instagram. I put here, I just want to quote it. True spirituality is realizing your authenticity. It has nothing to do with becoming a better person. When you came into this world, you didn't choose your parents or the environment you grew up in, or the body that you inhabit, which has certain karmas attached to it. And as you grow, your body will accumulate certain habits, patterns, that were given to you. And it seems as though the whole point of spirituality is to change all that and to align it with love. The ideas of what you would imagine being a good person is. It seems to make sense that that's what you do in spirituality. It could not be further from the truth. Sorry, I'm just replying to an important message. In spirituality, as I mentioned in the post, it's about becoming who you are and discovering it. Letting it be is a more accurate statement. In life, anything you try not to do will grow. And anything you try to become will be the ego creating a new version of itself under the disguise of this one is better. The point of spirituality is not to create a new ego, but it's to recognize when you are in the ego or when it has you, and learning the practice of surrendering, not trying to change, discovering who you are and who you are not. Simply allowing things to be with open, loving arms. And even that is not something that you should try to do. If you take anything I say in this video and try to adopt it into your life, that's only going to be the ego, once again, trying to become spiritual. Let's say you've learned through your upbringing to be a jerk. Then for you, your authentic expression through this body and this life might feel rough around the edges to others in comparison to what a good person is, or what you would imagine a good person would be. One needs to drop the whole idea of a good person when they're truly serious about spirituality. One needs to fully let it all go, completely, and discover what is for you. It's going to be difficult for me to explain what true spirituality is without sounding like I'm trying to tell you what you should be doing. There's no doing in spirituality. You don't become anything. One tip is, if you find yourself projecting an idea of what you're going to be like and then trying to change in order to match that projection in your mind, then you're not along the right path. That's the ego using future to try to align you with a future person, a future self. And the ego lives in past or future. It says, I was this, I'm going to be this. You can only be authentic when you are living in the moment. So that's a huge key right there. And while you are living in the moment, you are simply to watch. When you watch yourself, just allowing your natural patterns to flow as you already are, then you're going to notice that there's going to be a different quality to your being. A different quality to your being when you're watching yourself versus when you're not watching yourself. The change comes of its own, on its own. When you're watchful of your behavior, anger, frustration, and just a lot of the negative aspects of being a human become diffused easier. You don't feed into those cycles. My cat was eating some of the leaves. I don't think it's good for her. You don't feed into some of those cycles that are destructive. Not as much. For one person, they might feed more into it. For another person, they might feed less into it. The only thing that matters is awareness. Are you aware of what you're doing? Are you watching yourself? That's awareness. Are you aware? And if a voice comes in and says, oh, you're doing that bad habit again, that's not awareness. That's ego masquerading as awareness. Awareness has no physical, has no voice. It doesn't speak. It doesn't speak any language you know. As a matter of fact, it speaks the only language you truly know, but it's not a language as far as words are concerned. Words create a certain feeling in you. Words are only to interpret a feeling in you. And if you live on the surface of your life, then you're going to live by the mind's interpretation, your ego's interpretation of a feeling that's in you. Your ego is going to try to guide you to a better feeling or whatever. It's going to try to guide you in some way or another. And that's living on the surface. That's not awareness. That's your ego. That's a lack of trust. There's no faith in that lifestyle. Faith is not blind either. You may need a leap of faith and the trust comes later, but you need to be watchful in order for the trust to grow. You need to see that the ego is not guiding you in the right direction, but your heart is, and that takes time. The more you simply watch yourself, the more you're going to notice that your body behaves a bit differently. And a lot of the patterns that for you, in your specific existence, you, not anybody else, there's no comparison here. A lot of your cycles that you're meant to overcome in this life, a lot of your own personal habits will change at the pace that they can. People say you were meant to experience that. Really, that is not true. People say that just to make you feel good and to give your mind permission to let it be, to let you trust, but it's more of a belief than a trust. Simply watch yourself. Nothing is meant to happen, things simply happen. And then when you're aware of what's happening, when you simply watch it, after a period of time, the same way a detective can put clues together, you can come to the conclusion yourself that when you are aware of yourself, when you are self-aware, there's a different quality about your being. Even your anger is different. Not to say in some cases it won't be less, maybe it'll be more intense. The quality will be different. The feeling of you as you express yourself will have a different quality about you. Did you know that some Zen masters, if not all, I can't say all, will actually hit their students on the head, different places when they're not aware? And this doesn't seem like much of an act of love, does it? A person would imagine that a master would be completely loving and consoling and confiding. In reality, each master expresses himself fully, authentically, as he is. It's actually very common for Buddhist practitioners or Zen practitioners to be taught early on that it's not the personality of your master, but it's the message under the personality that's important. And that's why there are so many different masters, so many different types of masters. You need to find one that vibes with you. You need one that will provoke you, but that also feels right for you at the same time. It's those moments when he challenges you that you can see certain things in yourself that you might not have been aware of. And again, being aware is the only criteria when it comes to true spirituality and true authenticity. Because when you're not aware of yourself, you're not being authentic, you're sleeping, you're dreaming. The ego's driving at that point. But you, who you are, is not what you think. It's not your thoughts. It's not what you do. It has nothing to do with what you do. You're something deeper. You are not even physical, and at the same time you are here and now. There's a connection that goes deep. But if the body disappears, and I believe it was Socrates that said this as he was dying to his followers, his disciples, near the end of his death, 90% of my body, he says, I cannot feel, I cannot use, but the sense of I is still 100% there. So there's something that goes beyond death. There's something that goes beyond the body, beyond the mind. This is a vehicle that we're tethered to while we're here. And the only thing we really need to do while we're here is just become aware. It's not about changing. Spirituality is not about changing. If you try in any way, to stop anything that's happening, it's just another false self, another split, more subtle version of the ego that's still trying to control you. And this might be difficult to come to realize for yourself, because you're going to say to yourself, well, does that mean it's okay to be an asshole? Is it okay to hurt people? Because sometimes that's really what I want to do. And I'm not saying it's okay or not okay. Authenticity goes beyond both. You don't even need to look at it in that perspective whatsoever. Because that's only another ego fragment that's asking that question. True surrender is beyond good and bad. It takes a leap of faith, and trust comes later on. I went through this process, and sometimes the people around me can see I changed, and sometimes the people around me can think that I haven't changed or see that I haven't changed. What they see is a projection of their own ego, and our job here on this planet is not to make other people's lives easier. or change so that others give us, wow, you're changing. It's not about getting, I'm trying to find the right word, approval from others. You're doing it. You can't be authentic if you're living through the eyes of others for their validation in your progress. There's no progress to be made. See, that's the real secret here. In true authenticity, there is no such thing as progress. There's no forward or backward movement. There's simply just realizing yourself. And that's not a progress. There's no direction to that. It's not in nor out. Language can be very, very tricky, and you need to look past all of language and detach to all of the meanings. You feel, just be, simply be. Closest thing you can do to being authentic is just and that moment after your out breath, before another thought comes in, is probably closest to who you really are than anything you can do, can't do, try to do, become. These tiny glimpses, these little moments of space between your thinking, between the moments where an idea comes in of trying to do this or that, there's going to be these tiny little gaps. And if you can become aware of them, you can find that there's an essence in you that doesn't feel like it's part of anything. It doesn't think, it just simply is there. And you'll notice that is there-ness, if you become more and more aware, that is there-ness is always there, constantly your entire life. The only thing that changes is the intensity of how much you follow the projections of the mind. Your dreams. I made a video on that at one point earlier, that your thoughts are all dreams. So are you dreaming while awake? Or are you lucidly awake? Are you still dreaming while awake? Or is your life a lucid awakeness, a lucid dream? Are you lucid now? When the mind is dreaming, are you aware that you're lost in thoughts? Are you aware that there's a gravity to thoughts and emotions? Can you see it happening? Are you focusing on that, or are you recognizing the watcher as it is watching? And even that, you don't have to do any of that. A video like this can be a little bit confusing, but that's good. If you feel confused, then you're probably along the right path. Because if you feel that you know, you definitely don't know, and that's the ego trying to find a stable point for you to view things. Hey Leah! So, I'll leave you with that. Wherever you are around the world, whatever time it is that you're watching this video, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I get stuck in my armpit. I don't want to rip it off. I appreciate you. Peace.